Some of the best songs of all time actually have the darkest backstories imaginable. Songs that were played at your 10th grade school dance or your best friend's bar mitzvah.
Those were the best days of my life.
Incredible tracks that were spawned from some really dark roots. I mean, is I Am the Walrus a Gulliver-style political send-up, or just a stream of random nonsense? Is the summer of '69 really about getting naughty with one's mouth?
What does that mean?
I mean, we all love there to be a true story behind our favorite music, and I think because of human nature, we're oftentimes more excited the more disturbing the true story is.
You want to start? That's disturbed.
Welcome, I am Nostalgic Nick with Do You Remember? And today we're going to be examining 20 of the most popular songs that have the darkest backstories. Oh yeah, it's gonna get spooky. If you enjoy our Scary Good playlist, please hit that thumbs up icon. It helps more than you might know, and the more likes we get, the more videos we can make for all of us to enjoy. Now, we really had a ton of fun putting this one together, so we hope you enjoy it. Get down below and tell us the songs you dug, the ones you hated, and any stories we forgot. Now, let's dig all those skeletons out of the closet. American Pie, Don McLean. So we start off the list with one you might already know, but is certainly the granddaddy of dark origin stories. I'm talking, of course, about Don McLean's American Pie. At first listen, the song seems to be a typical 70s coming-of-age story set in rural America. You know, something John Cougar Mellencamp would die to release himself. And while the entire song is chock full of innuendos and double meanings, what we're focusing on is the most famous line.
The day the music died.
Because it refers to a very specific point in rock and roll history. I'm talking, of course, about the plane crash in 1959 that tragically killed Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper, 3 of rock and roll's biggest stars. And with Elvis in the army, Little Richard giving up secular music, and Jerry Lee Lewis marrying his 13-year-old cousin, all this to a 14-year-old Don McLean. Well, it must have seemed like the music truly died that day. Jump, Van Halen. A lot of true Van Halen fans consider the song Jump to be the moment when the band sold out and went mainstream. You know, they jumped the shark. But with one of the catchiest, most instantly recognizable synthesizer riffs of all time, who the heck even cares? On first listen, you might think the song is about taking risks, taking that plunge when no one else believes in you. And you would be partially right, only think way more literal. Because David Lee Roth wrote Jump while driving around LA in his 1951 Mercury convertible, turning over and over in his head a recent news story about a local man threatening to jump to his death from a bridge. Roth thought to himself, soon someone is just gonna yell, "Go ahead and jump," and boom, an iconic song was born. So yeah, think about that the next time you and your friends are jumping together on the dance floor. Never Learn Not to Love, the Beach Boys. Never Learn Not to Love was certainly not one of the Beach Boys' biggest hits, and probably won't be played at any of their funerals.
I'm your kind, and I see.
But at first listen, it seems like a sweet, psychedelic love song that just happened to be written by Charles Manson. Oh yikes. The Beach Boys drummer Dennis Wilson befriended the cult leader after he had a threesome with 2 of his followers. And that's when Manson played him a new song he was working on called Ceased to Exist. The Beach Boys bought the song with a promise to change nothing, which they of course promptly broke, leading to Manson threatening the Wilson kids. Maybe everything happens for a reason, because this caused the band to end their relationship with him. Now just go back and listen to that song, because lyrics like "Cease to resist, come on, say you love me," or "Submission is a gift given to another." I mean, yeah, they all have Manson's fingerprints all over them. Super creepy. I Wish It Would Rain, The Temptations. Many of Motown's best songs are filled with heartbreak and loss, but there's something extra poignant in The Temptations' 1967 hit.
But I wish it would rain. Oh yeah, yeah.
I Wish It Would Rain is a song about the weather not matching the singer's mood after he found out his wife was cheating on him. So where does that extra poignancy come from? Well, probably the fact that the lyricist for the song, Roger Penzabene, wrote the tune not long after he found out his real-life wife was being unfaithful. And just to make the story way sadder, a 22-year-old Penzabene took his own life only 10 days after this song was released. I know, absolutely heartbreaking, and a true dark backstory for that song. My Sharona, The Knack.
My little pretty one, when you gonna give me some time, Sharona?
And now, for the first entry on this list, I'll file under the heading Men Being Awful. My Sharona, the incredible song, The Knack's 1979 smash hit, helped wave goodbye to disco and usher in the new phenomenon of new wave. But a close listen to the lyrics was always a bit creepy. From the opening line, "Ooh, my little pretty one, pretty one." Lolita reference, anyone? To the straight out gross, I always get it up for the touch of the younger kind. Come on, gross. The song is more than a bit problematic, and that's before you learn the true story behind it. When he was 25 years old, the Knack's lead singer Doug Fieger met a 17-year-old Sharona Alperin in a record store. And although they both had significant others at the time, Fieger soon began to date the child. Gross. And he didn't even try and hide it. 1. Metallica. Metallica. The band known for writing songs about roses and baking cookies and frolicking in the sun. No, I'm just kidding. But the lyrics for the band's 1988 single 1 are dark even by their standards.
Oh, my friend, I wish you
The song revolves around a World War I soldier so badly wounded on the battlefield that he is praying for God to let him die. Dark. And darker still when you realize James Hetfield based the song on Dalton Trumbo's 1938 anti-war novel Johnny Got His Gun, which itself was inspired by 2 real-life events. 1, the hospital visit of Edward, Prince of Wales to Curly Christian, the only Canadian quadruple amputee in World War I. And 2, the case of an English major so badly deformed on the battlefield that he was reported as MIA to his family. And they didn't even realize his fate for years. So yeah, war sucks. The Needle and the Damage Done, Neil Young. In 1970, Neil Young was on top of the world. Fresh off his first solo effort, everything was looking up for the Canadian singer-songwriter. Unfortunately though, midway through the recording sessions for his next album, After the Gold Rush, Young was forced to dismiss his backing band, Crazy Horse, due to the heroin addiction of their lead guitarist, Danny Whitten. So Neil put his thoughts to paper and wrote The Needle and the Damage Done about Whitten throwing away his talent.
Oh, the damage done.
And a prophecy was fulfilled 2 years later after Young was once again forced to fire the guitarist. Young said, quote, "We were rehearsing with him and he just couldn't cut it. He couldn't remember anything too far gone. I had to tell him to go back to LA. He just said, I've got nowhere else to go, man. How am I gonna tell my friends?" And he split. That night, the coroner called me and told me he died. That blew my mind. I loved Danny. I felt responsible. I mean, woof. Don't do drugs, kids, even if you are a rock star. Shine on, you crazy diamond. Pink Floyd. Speaking of drugs, let's talk about Pink Floyd. Most people don't know that the band was founded as a psychedelic rock group in 1965. And the man who wrote the songs that got them their initial fame wasn't close to being in the picture by the time the band became one of the most famous in the world. In 1968, Floyd were forced to kick out Syd Barrett, their lead singer, lead guitarist, and primary songwriter. Because, well, Barrett had a complete mental breakdown due to an overconsumption of LSD. Rumors of a days-long acid binge and a flatmate secretly spiking his morning coffee every morning abound. But whatever the reason, Barrett never fully recovered from his indulgences, and Pink Floyd were forced to go on without a man they considered to be a brother. Hence, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, a moving tribute to their fallen leader.
Shine on, you crazy diamond.
Brown Brown Sugar, the Rolling Stones. The next entry on this list doesn't so much have a specific story behind it, but rather an entire awful concept. I'm talking about the Rolling Stones' 1971 smash hit, Brown Sugar. When you're casually listening to the song on the radio, you might not get the song's full meaning. You think, yeah, it's kinda gross that Jagger is describing the black women he's trying to get with as brown sugar, but hey, the 70s were a different time. But no, I want you to take a closer look at the lyrics. Scarred old slaver knows he's doing alright. Hear him whip the women just around midnight. Oh boy. We've also got Lady of the House wondering when it's gonna stop. Houseboy knows that he's doing alright. Okay, that's just crazy bad. One of the most famous songs of all time with more than a bit of slave sprinkled in. Jailbait, Ted Nugent. I mean, is anyone surprised that Ted Nugent, a questionable human being at best, wrote a song called Jailbait? Yeah, me either. And if your reaction to such lyrics as I don't care, is that Nugent was intentionally being provocative to subvert the system and sell records, well, hang on to your butts. Because in real life, the singer became the legal guardian of a 17-year-old named Pele Massa to get around the fact that he couldn't marry her because of her age. And Courtney Love has also gone on the record saying she performed some X-rated mouth stuff on Nugent when she was just 12.
You were 12 and a half?
Yeah, but I mean, like that, I had a disgusting, I was in juvenile hall.
Nugent himself, in his VH1 Behind the Music episode, admitted to having intimate moments with teenage girls, which somehow makes Jailbait even more revolting. Ted Nugent, you are gross. Save the Last Dance for me, The Drifters.
Save the last dance for me.
When you first listen to The Drifters' 1960s single, Save the Last Dance for Me, the song seems sweet and vaguely progressive for the era. I mean, yeah, the man is still giving orders to his wife, but at least he's not being completely overbearing and possessive. Hey, this is 1960, we have to take what we can get. But then you hear the true story behind the single. Doc Pomus wrote the song on his wedding day while watching his wife have a great time on the dance floor with the guests. So why wasn't Pomus out there with all of them having a great time? Well, Doc had polio and was confined to a wheelchair, therefore he couldn't dance with his wife on their wedding day. A slightly tender song becomes absolutely heartbreaking and pretty dark. Barracuda, Heart. By 1977, Hart had almost a half-decade of exposure to dudes in the record industry being crappy to women, and they were completely fed up with it. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when the men who ran their record company, Mushroom Records, created a moronic publicity stunt, releasing a made-up story about the two sisters who make up Hart, Ann and Nancy Wilson, being in an incestuous relationship. A male radio promoter came up to Ann after a concert and asked how her lover was. Well, Ann became outraged. She went back to her hotel room and wrote the original lyrics of the song Barracuda. And as their producer said, Barracuda was created conceptually out of a lot of this record business bullshit. Barracuda could be anyone from the local promotion man to the president of a record company. So, hey guys, don't be creeps. Hurricane, Bob Dylan.
That's the story of the hurricane, but it won't be over till they clear his name.
By the mid-70s, Bob Dylan had mainly moved on from protest songs in favor of either nonsensical gibberish that sounded deep at a superficial level,
You guys are idiots. This song is very deep.
or deeply introspective takes on his life. Both types of songs are fantastic, by the way. But in 1975, Dylan reverted back to his subversive start and released one of the best protest songs of the decade, Hurricane, about the incarceration of a boxer, Reuben Hurricane Carter. a contender for the world middleweight title throughout the early 1960s. Carter was arrested for a double murder at a bar in 1966, and despite zero forensic evidence or eyewitnesses, Hurricane was sent to jail by an all-white jury. The boxer would spend 20 years behind bars until his conviction was overturned in 1985, so I guess a happy ending. All My Love, Led Zeppelin. In 1979, the kings of heavy metal blues, known more for soaring guitar and pounding drums, Led Zeppelin, released one of the most sad, tender, and heartfelt songs of the decade, All My Love, one of just 2 Zeppelin songs that guitarist Jimmy Page had no part in writing. At first listen, it appears to be a straightforward love ballad from a man to a woman, proclaiming an everlasting love. But the truth is far sadder. During Led Zeppelin's 1977 US tour, Robert Plant's 5-year-old son died of a stomach ailment, and the song is instead the tearful farewell of a father to a son, which makes the song immensely more heartbreaking to listen to, so try not to tear up the next time it comes on the radio. I Can't Make You Love Me, Bonnie Raitt.
I can't make you love me if you don't.
So I think everyone knows Bonnie Raitt's 1991 hit, I Can't Make You Love Me. The song's so heartbreaking that Raitt recorded the vocal in just one take, because it was so sad a song that she could not recapture the emotion. She said, quote, "We tried to do it again and I just said, you know, this ain't going to happen." So I know we're all expecting some super sad story to be behind it, but the true tale is a bit darker and a lot less romantic. Songwriter Mike Reed was inspired by an article about a man who got arrested for getting drunk and shooting his girlfriend's car up. The judge asked the man if he had learned anything, to which he replied, "I learned, Your Honor, that you can't make a woman love you if she don't." So a lot less broken-hearted, jilted wife, and a lot more drunken domestic violence. But hey, we just won't think about that. Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen. And next up, we have one of the most misunderstood popular songs ever written, Born in the USA by the boss himself. The hit song has been used for decades by right-leaning politicians. I'm looking at you, Ronald Reagan and Pat Buchanan.
Rests in the message of hope in songs of a man so many young Americans admire, New Jersey's own Bruce Springsteen.
What's more American than Bruce screaming over guitars and drums? I was born in the USA. And yet, the song isn't a celebration of all things stars and stripes, but instead a vicious indictment of how the country treats those that depend on it most. Listen to the lyrics and you will realize Born in the USA is about America failing a working-class man. First, by sending him overseas to fight in a pointless war, and then abandoning him when he comes back broken and needing help. I know, seriously, not exactly a patriotic barn burner. Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple. Smoke on the Water may have the most recognizable guitar riff in the entire history of rock and roll. But if you're anything like me, you have no idea what the song is actually about. Because I could only ever sing the title, followed by half-hummed gibberish afterwards. I kind of assumed that Deep Purple, the heavy metal gods behind the 1972 hit, were avid boatmen who would spend their early mornings afloat when the water was covered by mist. Well, no, that's obviously wrong. In 1971, Deep Purple were at a Frank Zappa concert at a casino in Switzerland on the shore of Lake Geneva. That's when some idiot in the crowd shot a flare gun at the ceiling and the building caught fire. It burned the entire complex to the ground and literally led to Smoke on the Water. Oh, who would have guessed that? Lila, Eric Clapton. Lila, one of Eric Clapton's most famous songs, was ostensibly inspired by a 12th century Persian poem about a young man who falls helplessly for a moon princess. but is driven mad when she is married off by her father to a man she doesn't love. Huh, kinda weird, but sweet. Except, Clapton saw the poem as a spot-on analogy for his real life, because by the time Lila was released, Clapton had fallen head over heels in love with his best friend George Harrison's wife, Pattie Boyd. So much so that he retreated from the public life for almost 2 years, not recording any music and dedicating most of his time to, well, the H drug. You know, the needles and stuff. But don't worry, Boyd and Harrison got divorced in 1977, and by 1979, Clapton was marrying his dream girl, with George Harrison even in the wedding party. I mean, okay, that's really weird. 99 Loved Balloons, Nina. If you had to guess what 99 Loved Balloons is about, you know, the insatiably catchy 1983 German pop song by Nina, what would you say? Hot air balloons, the fair perhaps, maybe a birthday party. While all logical guesses, all are wrong. But if you had said the end of humanity due to nuclear holocaust, then you were spot on. Yep, that upbeat kraut banger is anti-war to its very core. The English version of the song starts with 99 red balloons being released into the sky. The balloons are mistaken by faulty early warning systems as an enemy attack, and both sides begin to launch nukes at each other. And it ends with the singer walking through the destruction of civilization until they find one single balloon and they release and think of you. Yep, who would have ever thought? Mother, John Lennon. For anyone with unresolved issues with their parents, John Lennon's haunting 1970 song Mother hits very close to home. The singer cries out for both a mother and father who aren't there, who in his eyes have abandoned him. And this just wasn't a flight of fancy for Lennon. Nope, he pulled from real pain and real experience. John's father left his family when he was just 5, and the Beatle had no contact with him for over 20 years. Then, Lennon's mother was deemed unfit to raise him, and so he went to live with his aunt. And although the singer had an okay relationship with Mom, she was hit by a car and died when he was 17. So when Lennon plaintively begs for Mom and Dad, no, he's not faking it. He's truly grieving the absence of two of the most important people in a child's life. Welp, thanks John, that's some dark, dark stuff. Alright, there they are. 20 songs with very deep and often dark backstories. So how many of these origin stories did you already know? Did we ruin any of your favorite songs forever? We hope not. I mean, honestly, I think knowing the backstories can only help you love the song more. Maybe in a different way, but you'll gain some appreciation still. Which of the 20 songs was your personal favorite? Finally, do you know another great song that has a dark, dark past? Well, get down below and tell us about it. We could always make a round 2. If you enjoyed our video today, which we certainly hope you did, please click that thumbs up icon. It really helps our channel a ton. And hey, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Because after all, we're nothing without you. But most importantly, from the entire Do You Remember team, we want to thank you so much for watching and have a great day.